Hello, and welcome to another episode of Women Lead TV, brought to you by Connected Women of Influence. I am your host today, Marcy Bro, and I have a beautiful guest with me, Donna Bond. I'm going to let Donna introduce herself in a second, but what I just want to give you a little teaser of what you are in for is Donna is the kind of person that you tap into when you're feeling the call. Maybe you're feeling like, is there something a little more for me? Or, maybe my life purpose, what is that? If that is resonating with you, time to lean in and learn from Donna. So Donna, I'm going to let you introduce yourself with that little teaser and let people know who you are and what you do in this world.
Marcy, I love you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. It's just wonderful to be with you and with everybody who's watching. My name is Donna Bond, and I'm a catalyst for personal transformation. And I empower you to live into the highest version of yourself. And we rely so heavily on our intellect and on our intellectual mind, but we have this whole other part of ourselves that is oftentimes overlooked. And I help women not only remember and access this part of themselves, but also how to include this part of themselves into their everyday, day-to-day life.
That's a great way to say it. And I have to say, Donna, we've met each other through a circle, our dear friend, Ashley, shout out to Ashley Strong Smith. We met in her community, and then you and I worked together. I became your client, you became my client. So I really know the power of what you do. But I have to say, it's really funny, Donna. I'm beginning. I had gotten to know you and gotten to know your heart. And then I was planning a photo shoot for you. And I'm like, Donna, what is it that you really do? Because I was like, I want the nuts and the bolts. What do you really do? And you said to me, Marcy, you need to come and experience a little session with me, which I did. And then I immediately went home and my mind was just like, so when people,
I love that.
It was just open. And I have learned so much from you. And I have this book that you wrote here. It's called Original Wisdom. There's so much I learned from you. There's no possible way I'm going to be able to even cover it all in this short little container that we have today. So what I want to do is really focus on how do you help people when they are really doing some deep inquiry around what's my purpose? That's a big question. How do you even start?
Yeah, it's such a big question. Where do we even start with it? First of all, our purpose is not a job. It's not a job. It's not a role. And I think sometimes we want to buy into that and we think like, oh, my purpose is this job and it's going to make me millions of dollars and then I'm going to become famous. And, we buy into all of these things that it's not. And I think it's not our fault that we do that, right? Because we are so shaped by the society that we live in and that we grow up in. Our purpose is to be in our life. Our purpose is to be in our life. And our purpose is our unique expression, our unique individualized essence being shared out in the world. Right? It's like there's a lot of coaches out there and there's a lot of doctors, there's a lot of lawyers, there's a lot of photographers, right? There's all these people that fulfill these roles, yet no one can bring what you bring when you're photographing someone, right? You have this magic, this essence. And I think that there is an important alignment here with something that you really care about, something that moves you, something that opens your heart and that allows that life force to come out of you. And you certainly do this when you're behind that camera. I know that for a fact because I have experienced it firsthand. It's how do I, in my life, align myself with that thing that brings me alive?
Yeah. And I know that as the work that you do with your clients, you have a lot of processes. Some of them are here in this book that I have pages marked and things underlined. You just have so many processes to help people with this because it's not an easy question. It's really deep inquiry, and there are tears, and there's a lot of fear. And so right now you are sitting in Costa Rica, and you moved to Costa Rica from Southern California. And prior to that, you left a job that most people would envy, with a salary that most people strive for, to follow a nudge from the universe or from God or however it appeared. That was kind of a bold choice.
Crazy?
There was a lot of fear.
A little crazy?
Yeah. I was gonna say crazy, and then I'm very conscious
A
of the
little
words I
crazy,
use.
Marcy.
Okay. It must have seemed crazy to your family. So, and your husband too. It's not just you that moved. So you made an incredibly brave, bold, crazy choice to uproot your whole life and follow a calling. What is it that gave you the confidence to make this massive change? And now here you are. It's kind of like, I met you and I saw you go through the process and all the layers that were involved with that big change. And now here you are in the after version of that process. Now looking back on it, what was it like to really step into that place and be like, we're doing this, Paul, we're moving? What was that like?
Well, I love your perception of it, right? And when we see other people do these things, it looks like a big lightning bolt, like, woo, boom, this whole thing happened like overnight. I can assure you that's not really how it happened. And that's not really how it happened for me either. Really, it's a series of inner yeses. It's a series of inner yeses. And it's like I said yes to one thing, and that one thing then opened a doorway. And I said yes to that thing, and that opened another doorway. And, even small steps will take us all the way up the mountain. And we forget that. And in again, I'm going to blame society on this. We like the quick fix. We like the hit and run. We want to have that instant gratification. If people are looking for a quick fix, I'm not their girl.
Right.
I am the guide that can hold the lantern while you're stepping through your journey. And beginning to decipher the truth of this voice, right? The truth of those inner yeses. And gosh, is that really guidance from my higher self? Is that really guidance from my soul? Or is that just another story that I'm telling myself? Or is it a lie that I'm telling myself? Because we tell ourselves a lot of lies. So I really support women to decipher between the truth and the lies. And where is this information coming from, right? Everybody is intuitive. But I know for myself, really understanding the voice of my ego and my personality and all of its agenda items, right? Safety, security, comfort, and control. Learning to see that and identify that and then look past it to be able to align myself with my real truth. And, I want to go on the record and say, like we say the truth, your truth is different from my truth. My truth
Right.
is different from her truth. Her truth is different from her truth. Everybody has their own truth. And this is what we're after, because aligning yourself with your own truth, that's part of your purpose. And I like to believe that we each have this dynamic code inside of us that is the guidance for that. It is the program, the plan, the code that is guiding us towards those inner yeses.
That code. And is that what you refer to as your IntelliKey, or is that different?
That's right, Marcy. You're so good. That is
I'm a good
our
student.
IntelliKey. Our IntelliKey, in the same way that an acorn grows into an oak tree, or a caterpillar grows into a butterfly, right? Every single one of us, or a tadpole grows into a frog. We each have an IntelliKey, the fullest realized expression of who we came here to be.
Yeah. And I think that we feel that call and that nudge towards that. And sometimes we just get in our own way. Don't you find that? And as a follow-up question, why is it that you work with women as opposed to all humans?
Well, I do work with all humans, but women are rising. We are at an epic time on the planet right now. You can look around and you can see in every corner of the world, women are taking their place. We are unbinding ourselves from the chains of the patriarchy, unbinding ourselves from the chains of our own misunderstandings and misbeliefs that have self-sabotaged our dreams, our mission, our power. And so I know what really lights me on fire is supporting women in recognizing their own magnificence. And, if they're anything like me, they're brutal on themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Brutal. I mean, I call it inner brutality, this voice of the inner critic, the inner judge. And, we've all heard that example, like you would never speak to your friend, your sister, a stranger, the way that we speak to ourselves. And so I just know through my own struggle, through my own pain of this inner abuse, I'm going to call it. I know that sounds really dramatic, but it kind of is, because the more we are trapped in that inside of ourselves, the more we deprive the world of our gifts. And everybody has gifts that they are here to teach and share and give and follow and birth and bloom and create. We all have something that we're here to contribute, to bring. And so we can't do that if we're in the corner cloaked in our self-doubt. And it's funny, Marcy, the minute I went on the record saying, I'm going to support women, didn't I have men lining up to work with me? And I do support several men in private coaching journeys. So,
and you're probably like me, where you market to women, but you in certain circumstances, you work with men too.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
I think the reason I asked this question, Donna, is just because I see this every day. You cannot be a photographer of women without dealing with women's inner shit. And and I always say, and it's sad, but if you want to know what a woman doesn't like about herself, just listen. she will bring it up. She will bring it up. And that's only the, 1,000th of what she's saying in her own head. And I think a lot of it has to come down to really, and you said it so beautifully, but just really untethering from what we were raised to be, whatever you were raised. There's a lot of work I've done personally, and my job is not done. And I think to the day I take my last breath, I'm still going to be working, because there's just so much to work on, and you get to one level and then there's more. So in your personal journey, going from a woman, that had this, like, on paper, you had it going on, Donna. You had all the things in place, and you still felt that looking around, is this it? You had your beautiful partnership with your husband, you had the job, you had the salary, you lived, I saw where you lived, everything on paper was gorgeous, and you still felt a nudge. What was it that really caused you to lean into that nudge to go deeper?
Yeah, I love this question. And can I offer you a reframe on the working on myself, just for
Always.
all of us?
Yeah.
We are in a process of evolution, and we will always evolve. And this idea of embracing that evolution just feels so much better than saying I'm working on myself. So I share that part of my own process. And it's just so important how we relate to these things, how we relate to ourselves as we're on a journey of evolution. And you're 100% right. Every single one of us, whether we realize it or not, it really is just about the level of awareness we bring to it. But we are all evolving until the day that we give up these bodies and go back to the ethers. And, yes, that's the truth.
Yeah. Yes. And, so how has your big leap to live this life? You live in Costa Rica now, in this home that you didn't even see for yourself. You have such a cool story. There's so much that you share on your website and in your book, and there's so much to your story. It's hard to just say it succinctly, but essentially, you're now in Costa Rica. What have you learned about making that big leap? Was it harder than you thought? Was it as expected, because you kind of were doing the process along the way of envisioning yourself there? Like, now that you've been there, how long have you been there? A year?
Year and a half now. Yeah, a year and a half.
Okay. What have you learned from that process?
I want to say this too, Marcy, because I think that this is really important. On paper, I still have it all. On paper, I am now incredibly successful in a whole other career. I haven't really given up any of that stuff. It's just the way that I relate to it is different.
Ooh, okay. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. I think it would be really helpful if we took our lives a little less serious, to be honest with you. And
just lighten up.
Our reality is way more malleable than what we have been led to believe. And so there was a really big awakening inside of me where I was like, well, I can stay in this machine and I can keep doing what everybody else is doing, and I'll keep getting the same results, right, that I was getting, even though part of me was dying. My life force was literally getting snuffed out of me. Or I can color outside the lines a little bit and see what happens. And so that's what I started doing. And I started living according to universal laws, the laws of the universe, instead of the laws of society and the laws of corporate land and the laws that my parents laid down on me, right? And all of us. And of course, they were doing the best job that they could with the tools that they had at the time. And everybody's always doing their best. But what I discovered was the invisible world has a unique structure of the way that it works. And once I began working with life instead of against life, then suddenly everything started lining up. When I realized, wow, I'm going to go do something that brings me joy, which for me, it happens to be spirituality and metaphysics and psychology, subjects that I have loved my entire life. But as I aligned myself with those things, then I began to elevate. And as I elevated to a higher place, a higher perspective, think about it, the difference between being on the bottom floor of a building, like in a big, busy city where there's chaos and there's confusion and there's garbage and there's stuff and people are feeling confined, or being on the top of that building where you have this beautiful range of sight and suddenly it's clear and calm and you can think. And now all of a sudden, it seems so obvious what you're here to do. It seems so crystal clear the next move you can make towards that.
Yes, and it should feel clear. And what I love about the work that you do is you take this big subject that has a lot going on, and you have a lot of processes and tactical things that you can do if when you're trying to find the clarity. So that's what I like about you, because you didn't come out into the world as this woo spiritual mama that you are now. So I feel like you blend really beautifully both sides of your personality to help us muggles understand how to really get up to that top floor of our lives, to use that metaphor. So I appreciate the approach you have, because for me, I'm like, give me tools, give me homework, give me tactics. And how did you come up with those tactics that you include as the way you help people?
Well, I pursued a master's degree at the University of Santa Monica, which I now hold in spiritual psychology with an emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing. And that really opened my awareness to what was possible. And they had just incredible processes that they would bring us through, because the pursuit of that master's was really going into taking a journey into my own heart and unlocking the secrets that were me. And so that was really the framework for my training. And then, Marcy, once we access, and I think you know this and you've had experience of this, once we access this yummy energy of the life force that is just moving through us, we own the fact that we're a creator. And it's like we just start creating, we start making shit up, and
Right.
You see what works and you see what doesn't, and what has an impact and what maybe doesn't, and you just keep getting back out there and recreating things. So that has been my approach. And I love witnessing anyone having a big or small awareness about their life, about how their thinking could support their lives in very different ways, with some gentle massaging, with some gentle tweaking. And then when we have those different thoughts, we inevitably experience different emotions and different feelings from them. And then as we have those different emotions and different feelings, that will drive different behavior. So this is really what I teach in Empower the Authentic You, which is the master course that you attended. And I call this whole self mastery. We have mindsets, skill sets, heart sets, and soul sets. And we're not going to get into the soul sets today, but in Empower the Authentic You, you begin to understand this relationship with the highest part of yourself.
And that's how you led me beautifully to the next thing, because we are wrapping up our time, and that was actually how I was going to ask you of how people could work with you. And I know you have a number of ways, but I think if you could just answer that question, like what would the best way, if somebody's just dipping their toe in, what's a good way for them to work with you?
Well, if you just go to donnabond.com, there are all kinds of free classes and opportunities on my website. You can enroll yourself in a number of different, short mini classes to get a drink and see if it feels aligned. And I do work with clients privately, one-on-one, as well as I lead women's retreats. I'll be doing a retreat in Southern California this year in October. I do an annual retreat in Costa Rica every year called Connect to Your Essential Nature. And Empower the Authentic You is my online self-guided master course.
Well, thank you for providing lots of options for people. And thank you so much for the work that you do. I'm a better person for having done that work with you, or evolving with you, I should say. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the work you do, Donna. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Marcy. It's my honor really to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that